Well, there's been a lot of talk recently about the NBA's MVP voting process, what is entailed in it, and whether the right person is going to win this season or not. But it also brings up the sanctity of the award as a whole and past winners. It is inarguable that we have seen a number of snubs over the last couple years, so sit back and review the 5 biggest MVP snubs in modern NBA history. First, we have to define the parameters of modern history. For this, we shall begin in the 1976 season, when the ABA and NBA merged to produce the modern NBA as we know it today. Number 5, the Iceman. In the 1977-78 season, George Gervin led the San Antonio Spurs to a 52-30 record, which was good for third best in the NBA that year. He played all 82 games that season and posted averages of 27.2 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.7 steals, and 1.3 blocks. The eventual winner, Bill Walton, had a nice season that year, averaging 18.9 points, 13.2 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and 2.5 blocks per game. But here's the rub. Walton played only 58 games that season. That is contrasted again by Gervin playing in all 82, accounting for a 24-game discrepancy in only an 82-game regular season and resulting in one of the bigger snubs in modern NBA history. Number 4, Michael Jordan. In the 1988-89 NBA season, Jordan was coming off of his first career MVP award the season prior. In this season, he led the Bulls to a 47-35 record. Eventual league MVP that season, Magic Johnson, led the Lakers to a 57-win campaign. Now, yes, that is a 10-game differential in the win-loss column. However, the team Magic was working with was much stronger. The Los Angeles Lakers that season had 3 All-Stars, Magic himself, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and James Worthy. Not just All-Stars, but perennial All-Stars and Hall of Fame players. The Chicago Bulls had only 1 All-Star that season, Michael Jordan himself. Taking a look at the individual accolades here, and you can see it really is not close, as Jordan outpaced Magic in virtually every statistical metric, averaging more blocks, steals, and rebounds, while outscoring Magic by 10 points per game on a higher field goal percentage. Jordan was also first-team All-NBA defense this season. This might be a good moment to take a quick pause from the list and give an honorable mention shout-out to his airness, as realistically, Michael Jordan should have won the award the next year as well in 89-90, and he easily could have won the award in the 92-93 season as well. For all of you youngsters out there or unintelligent basketball fans that think LeBron James could have, quote, won the MVP every year, I can assure you, whatever you think LeBron is, that is what Michael Jordan really was. If anything, it could be argued that LeBron has too many MVPs, whereas Jordan feasibly should and could have won the award 8 to 9 times. Of course, we know he won 5 in his illustrious career. And perhaps we'll get back to Jordan a little bit later on in the list, but first, on to number 3, Dirk Nowitzki. We enter next into the controversial first MVP trophy of Steve Nash. More on his second MVP later in this video. Now in this year, the 2004-2005 season, popular belief has Shaquille O'Neal as the rightful league MVP, and for good measure, he did finish second this year in what amounted to one of the closest MVP votes in NBA history, as Nash netted a possible 1,066 total MVP points and Shaq had 1,033. The Suns won 62 games this season, while the Heat in Shaquille O'Neal's first season with them won 59. But check out the Dallas Mavericks with a sneaky 58-win season here. Only 1 win less than the Heat team, which, by the way, also had a young ascending Dwayne Wade on it, and 4 wins fewer than the Phoenix Suns team, which was loaded with 3 All-Stars, Nash, Amari Stoudemire, and Shawn Marion. Comparing Dirk to Steve Nash this season, you can see the statistical breakdown is not close at all. As you can see, Nowitzki played more games, played more minutes, averaged more rebounds, blocks, and steals, while scoring 11 more points per game than Steve Nash, making this one of the most egregious and a sneaky under-the-radar MVP snub. Number 2. Yes, again he appears on the list. I said earlier he realistically could have 8 or 9 league MVPs, and despite his preposterous statistical outputs in the mid to late 80s, which went for naught in terms of bringing home the MVP hardware, perhaps the biggest snub of Jordan's career was in the 1996-97 season when Karl Malone took home the MVP in a razor-sharp 986 to 957 total vote. And as you can see, the statistical discrepancy here isn't that glaring. In fact, Jordan had many seasons where there was a significantly larger void in both standard and advanced metrics. But realize that the Bulls this season were 69-13, which at that time was tied for the second most wins in NBA history. Jordan truly was a victim of his own success here, as just the year earlier, the Bulls were 72-10 and Jordan won the MVP. Again, memo to all of you LeBron fanboys. This really was a case of the voters just throwing their arms up in the air and saying, let's vote for the most valuable non-Michael Jordan player. Well, we've made it to number 1 on the list. And while Jordan was the most victimized player in NBA history, he did not endure the biggest single season snub. For that, we find ourselves squarely in the 2005-2006 season and the second of Steve Nash's back-to-back league MVP awards. I promised you earlier in the video we would make our way back, and here we are. In this year, Kobe Bryant put on a one-man assault of the record books, turning in one of the most prolific single seasons in NBA history. In fact, when adjusted for era by equalizing pace, NBC's Tom Haberstroh found that this was the best per possession scoring season ever. Much of that due to the low scoring and slowly paced season that it was. The average nightly scoring in the NBA for that season was only 97 points per game. Contrast that with the scoring of today in 2022-2023, and average nightly scoring is now at a plush 114 points per game. In 2005-2006, the highest scoring team in the league averaged 108 points per game. In today's NBA, the lowest scoring team in the NBA scores 108 points per game. In this season, Bryant averaged a preposterous 35.4 points per game with the dreadful court spacing surrounding him and not a single other All-Star other than himself anywhere on the roster. I mean, here's a look at the other Lakers who averaged at least 15 minutes per game that season. Yuck. Bryant dragged that roster into the playoffs with a 45-37 record. Oh, and kids, back then there was not a play-in tournament. And in order to make the playoffs in the Western Conference, you actually had to be over 500. Despite the heroics of Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash would ultimately go on to capture the MVP that season with only 9 more wins. I mean, this is glaring. Bryant averaged more rebounds, blocks, and steals per game than Nash, while nearly doubling him in scoring. 35 points per game to 18. Laughable. Bryant played in 80 of a possible 82 games that year. Oh, and also was named to All NBA First Team Defense. But wait, there's more. It's not even like Steve Nash narrowly won this award over Bryant in a razor-sharp vote. Kobe Bryant did not even finish third this season. He finished fourth in MVP voting. He finished closer to Chauncey Billups this season in MVP voting than he did to Steve Nash. That goes beyond snubbing. That is an outright hatred and refusal to vote for someone by the writers. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and make sure to let me know in the comment section what you thought of the list.